people was causing him all kind of problems, and so he just was tired of it, fed up. So he just was like, I'm done. Yes, Bobby is still alive. Yeah. All right, fam. That's it for Chiefing with the Chief 1110 Born Again Edition. Banging on wax. 8-1. Out.
Chief Janisi, Chief Janisi, right? Shout out who else we got? Shout out Mama Bear, Chief Mama Bear. And shout out the what's the lady with the T? Because she wanted the chief too. The T lady, Mama T.
Oh
Mama,
yeah, Mama T. Yeah.
yeah, Mama T is chief too. Yeah. So yeah, shout out to all the matriarchs on the land. We brought Chief in. I'm gonna open it up because this is something I gotta ask you though, Rod. Because they saying that Rod Hayes is a feminist. Rod Hayes is a mama's boy. He always take it up for the women. And I say, them dudes there, you know, I had my own thought in my head when they were saying it. Like they must don't, he must don't love his mama or something. You know what I'm saying? Hey, but what do you say to those guys that says Rod Hayes is a feminist? Rod Hayes is a mama's boy, right? The guy says complaining about that.
Out the gate, I'm a mama's boy. I'm my mama right hand man. Come to bump you sucker straight. Coming from the North Gate. King Kong and this, they ain't got nothing on me. Right? So, look, the thing is this. Earth is a feminine planet. The proper structure and order that keeps the human both functional, spiritually, socially, and mentally comes from the nurturing of the feminine. The natural order of the clans, the patriarchal, matriarchal orders. The patriarchal order is supposed to only be instituted in a time of war because the men are supposed to defend and protect the women and the children. There's concentric circles. The smaller they is, the closer to the center of the circle they is in protection. The newborns with the toddlers, you surround the toddlers with the adolescents, you surround the adolescents with the teens, and then you align all of the children around about by the mothers, and the fathers protect the circle. Right? When we talk about a chief, it's an exonym first and foremost because the name for tribal leader differed across tribes. So we didn't always call ourselves chief. Chief has become the term that the colonizer recognized as the leader of the clans, the tribal families that ran the land. Understanding that, chiefs, you just don't be handed the title of chief. It's through birthright, right? You're born with the potential, but it don't mean you will ever reach the status of the chief. The order comes from your family first. So the female chief is the glue, learning from the matriarch, Big Mama, how to keep the family together. She's responsible for following the instructions of Big Mama to have a system in play so when Big Mama move on to the other side, she can step up and become the next Big Mama. So the way it's easiest explained, most loved, most respected, right? Like you have people in the family that everybody in the family love, even the ones that don't get along with each other love that family member. They all giving them the nod. You might have some writing people in the family and some good people in the family, but this particular one, they all get along with them. They all giving them the family's approval that this is the good one right here. the good ones and the bad ones. This is how you start being considered for chief in the community from your family's recognition of your position, right? And then the training is incorporated based on the structure of what's taking place at the time. We will always train somebody to come up and be the next to take charge. Because the matriarchy, even when patriarchy was ruling in wartime, the matriarchy had a right to pull the plug on it. So it goes to who's going to benefit the most. If it's going to benefit 5 people versus 1 million, then the 5 people going to have to suffer. Because we rather tend to the many than to be controlled by the few. Right? So when we talk about feminism, feminism is the flip side of the war coin of patriarchy to prolong the war and keep the patriarchs in control. Most of the early feminists was cross-dressers pretending to be women, talking about women's rights, but they was really making it a reference to what we call today LGBTQ LMNOP rights, right? But they was getting the women on board with them because the women thought they was talking about natural born women with uteruses. They didn't know that eventually they was going to try to turn the males into women by giving them surgery, right? That eventually became what feminism turned into, where now you got to recognize somebody who was born male as a woman. But it's all to break families up. It's one of the many tools used to destroy the family structure. Because if the man is the man and the woman is the woman, there's no confusion about how we gonna run the house, right? But when the woman want to be the man in the house and the man want to be the man in the house, it causes conflict, right? Order is required in order to smooth your path out. Disorder is the order that makes your path rocky. So the more that you can even appear to be in order to other people, more people gravitate towards you because they see the structure, the controlled environment that gives them the ability to learn the self-control required in order to take charge of their own affairs. Right? And most of this is learned by the women teaching the children. What happens is the parents are being weaponized by the system, and they being used to fight over children. We didn't have family court. The women in both sides of the child's family determine the parenting time for the child and which parent is going to have primary custody.
Right.
Right. It wasn't the responsibility of the state. Now, the other side of the feminine march to power is to remember that all the land is passed through natural linear line as well as the wealth.
That's right.
And this is how we know everywhere we see a man's name on a deed, we know it was a usurpation taking place.
Right.
Because under our tribal orders from way back, you can Google, we don't sell land. Native chief tells America we don't sell land, and several different chiefs already told him we can't sell you the land.
Right.
You come over here, you can set up shop, you can do business, but we can't sell you the land. But we never sold the land.
Right.
And this is how we had so much heirs land at the turn of the century. But what we're looking at now is we remembering who we are and our roles and responsibilities. In the matriarchy, whether you think it's a feminist agenda or not, the matriarchy is the structure of the tribes. The women are normally the leader of the tribe. And the chief is the one who is doing a particular work. You become the leader according to your specialty. In your family, you might be your financial chief. Mm-hmm. You want everybody come to figure out how to manage their money correctly. They need you to teach them. Right? You by default, you become the financial chief of the family.
Right.
You got a political chief. You follow all of the politics. You know the current events. You see what's going on in the world and you explaining it to the family. Right? In the oral tradition, in order for the family to know, well, this is what we need to do next. But you can't make no adjustment for what you don't know of.
Right.
Right? You got a different chief, the leader. I'm going to switch up to the word leader because it's easier for regular people to understand. Who's ever most capable to lead under the pursuit or the agenda that you're working on, mm-hmm. That person is the chief. They in charge now. Everybody else support them. Mm-hmm. Right? So if you're working on the financial aspect, your financial chief needs whole family support in order to be effective. And this is how you moving up in the ranking system. Mm-hmm. The more skilled you become, then your tribe can allow other tribes to come and consult with you. They send their financial leadership to you in order for y'all to go over financial understanding of what's taking place so y'all know what investments to make. Mm-hmm. They tore all this down when they instituted the central banking cartel, when they introduced the political system of the Constitution. They destroyed our tribal structure. Mm. We used to automatically know that the person in the family that is the most spiritual is the priest of the family, and that's who we went to for priestly advice. Mm-hmm. Right? We used to know the psychic in the family, so if we wanted an oracle read, we knew which one of the uncles or aunties to go talk to. That's right. Right? But when they broke the families up, these are the exact people that they was trying to kill. While your lynchings, they didn't lynch people haphazardly, contrary to popular opinion. They was doing those lynchings was getting rid of leadership. Mm. And we had everybody was qualified to be a leader in their aspect, and that was bound from knowledge of self to total ignorance. And you can only do that by systematically wiping out the leadership, which is shown in COINTELPRO.
And the bloody oath secrecy of take out for our leaders. Yeah. Hey, Rod, that brings me to my next question. Now we see somebody asked the question about when did that matriarch start. Do you think that the Thomas Rolfe thing with the Pocahontas thing, we know we talked about it. You said it was because her name means playful one, and you dropped some on that. And but some people are saying that the Thomas Rolfe 16, it was 1620s. That's when they started. And then you read something the other day about around that same time, 1620 is when they started trying to switch over to a patriarch and men selling land. But before the early 1600s, it wasn't no man owning no land. You know what I'm saying? Could you go in?
Go back to, so this is a reference book and it's a website. It's called the Hadassa Treaty, mm-hmm. which is actually the treaty of the Cherokee Confederacy. Mm-hmm. Right? It's also known as the Treaty of the Longhouse. Mm-hmm. Yeah, Right. When you read the treaty, you are seeing rollout of how the government structure of the tribe was laid out.
Mm-hmm. Man, clan.
Right. And then when all of the tribes met all of the standards, they joined the Confederacy. That's how you join the Confederacy. But back then, we used to have the Constitution memorized, right? And we used to be able to recite it section for section, and that's how you knew your rank. The one that can recite the whole thing, like a Hafiz remember in the Quran, was the one who was studying the longest. Normally, sometimes you had children that outshined the elders. They called them boy kings or boy chiefs, right? Or girl chiefs. They was children chiefs because they understood what the Constitution said and they knew how to interpret it and tell you what it means at an early age. And that just shows
the Shakir lady. I just put a tape out on her because she tie in with this. She was a lady chief, and then if you look at how they was doing her, but the before we go into her, could you go in because the welfare? I noticed the welfare and the WIC that they put the sisters on, and they put them on housing and things, and they can't have the brother around, or else they'll take this government assistance.
Yeah.
Could you go in on how government assistance? Do you think that was a strategy used to hold us back? All the government assistance, like the welfare, etc.
Well, you know what originally created for us. Welfare was started by Roosevelt, and the catalyst to make them institute the welfare system was a bunch of European women that didn't have any life skills, losing their husbands in war. So the remedy is the government, because you lost your husband in war, has to create a program to subsidize your lifestyle, your income, so that you can be able to feed and house and clothe your children, which is a borrowing from the tribal system, the law of the land, which is everybody should have access to food, clothing, and shelter. But they used the principle, but they perverted it. And over time, after they did in 1925, after they did the rat experiment, they wanted to try it on humans. They started building projects in 1940s. Right? The purpose of the projects was to determine if, given us harsh living conditions and lack of access to clean water and good food, will we start killing each other like the rats did in the experiment. And lo and behold, exactly what happened in the microcosm happened in the macrocosm, because nature is nature.
Yeah, that's real slick, man. Like it's like a lot of stuff we ain't see it coming. Like this, all they were nonstop in the lab or in their think tank working on ways to stop us or keep us down or hold us back or tear us apart. And we ain't that we not even thinking. Well, it was for some people saying, oh, that's what they doing, right? But when they find them, they take them out, right? Now they was looking for Messiah, the COINTELPRO say, right? So was there any besides? I know you're gonna talk about the Shakir lady. Was there any women messiahs they were looking into to try to say, oh, we got to stop this lady? I know a Shakir lady was one of them. You go in on her too.
Before Sada, before the Panthers, there was Lucy Parsons. Mm. Remember, we went over her in the class one time. Mm. She was the most feared woman by the FBI. Mm. She was on the FBI watch list. You get they got COINTEL papers on Fannie Lou Hamer. Right? And they also got COINTELPRO papers on Betty Shabazz and Claire Muhammad. So they wasn't only looking at the men, but they knew that if a valuable woman was there, the men would fight to the death to defend that. So they wanted to get the leader of the men so that the troops had no organization, structure, and no direction in which to move. That's what made the nation so hard for them to penetrate.
Hmm. The women. And I always know that Doc said that that's why he kept a whole bunch of women around him, because women don't think like the man. Like they don't get jealous. A woman ain't gonna get jealous of a man. Well, another man, that get jealous of a man. So especially if you know if a man's a chief, say the man chief, and then the other man want to be in this position, but the other women chief around him, they ain't gonna be concerned about taking that man chief position, because they got their own position, they got their own role. So should you go in on that a little bit? Go ahead.
The jealousy is a learned behavior, first of all, artificially induced psychosis, a form of schizophrenia. It used to be in the DSM-V as something called dementia praecox. It's not natural to be jealous, right? But what's natural, and this is what make men clash at the top, is natural for a person with royal blood to seek the most prominent royal position. In the military structure, when we fighting war, it's natural for a general to try to take the lead in war. And sometimes the general that's leading the war, if he don't agree with his war philosophy, he would try to overthrow him or oust him because he believes he can be more effective in war. This is an idea that's exploited in studying warfare. This is why you study the leadership of warfare and the fall of the leaders before you, because then you get to see the power dynamic from an unbiased perspective. The problem is we have a tendency to take sides in historical matters before we have enough facts to come into a competent conclusion, right? So you study all of the warfare you can, you still might not get to all of the facts you need, but you will get an idea of what's being done on the battlefields of life, right? And then you look in places to gather intelligence that regular people won't look. So you'll see somebody like me reading Anton LaVey's Satanic Bible, but that's not my philosophy. But it got some good stuff in there, right? Chaos Magic say if it's some good stuff there, I can use it as long as it works. The ability to lead, sometimes people want the leadership position so bad that it drives them to a euphoria. Now, it's a spirit movement that normally does this. Because you ain't where you supposed to be, spirit gonna keep pushing you to seek that spot or to get taken out of the game. And this how you had leaders falling all over the land for the last 75 years in mass. Because other leaders, being misled, think they got the solution, and all they doing is creating more problems.
Hey, Rod, I noticed. Okay, like another thing about women. Okay, women and the moon and the connection with the moon. The moon is feminine. We're dealing with in some cases on the negative backside. We're dealing with lunatics. You look up the word, and they say that's connected with the moon, right? And if you look up lunatic, it says a person with mental illness. But and the women's menstrual cycle is connected with the water and the moon. And they said that the moon control the water. So could you go in on the connection with the lady chiefs and her rule and dealing with the moon as we go into the sun cycle? Like, so is the women switching? I know the woman is the sun and the moon connection. They were the sun and the moon. But as we go into this sun phase, could you go in on the women transferring from a higher power, because I think they going to a higher, the women going to a higher energy.
Okay, so one correction is the women energy is that black stuff you see in outer space.
Mm-hmm. Dark
called
matter.
dark,
Yeah.
but it's also melanin.
Go ahead.
Right, but when it's being activated with creative potential, it becomes something called Shakti.
Yeah, I heard that.
Shakti is the energy required for creation to be here. It's divine feminine energy active. Creator goddess energy.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And the sun is the potency of the ruler god. Mm-hmm. And the ruler god is to maintain order in his solar system. Mm-hmm. Right? So the creator god produced the ruler god to govern over the system, the solar system in case of the sun. Mm. But Big Mama, dark matter, the dark mother, is always watching and forever present. Go ahead. Right? Because anytime that the ruler god go rogue, he goes supernova, or he become what's called a dwarf star. He implodes, right? But he got to be reset because he out of control. Mm-hmm. His energy is out of balance, right? So he either going to explode and go supernova, or he going to implode and become a dwarf. Mm-hmm. But he's still going to be a star.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Hey, Rod, do you think that religion, especially Christianity, because even in Christianity, in Islam too, they talk about how the woman is supposed to stay in her place and all this. But in Christianity, if you go into the New Testament and Paul's books, he talk about that women shouldn't be speaking up in church. And
Paul was a homosexual, first of all, so of course he don't want the woman to speak up because it's going to expose you for the 40 years.
Yeah, go ahead. So, like, just to hit the second part of my question. So they got rid of ISIS, and they said the Father, the Son, then the Holy Ghost. So they got rid of the woman. So do you think that Christianity is one of the main factors in trying to uproot the matriarch? Because I mean, but then secretly they worship the matriarch. That's the backwards. Like they up in there with the Black Madonna. You go ahead.
Yeah, well, you got to remember the Pope seat sit on the Big Mama seat. That's called usurper. He's undermining Big Mama the whole time, right? They took Vatica, was the goddess that the Vatican is named after. This is also matriarchal order. They slaughtered the priestess at Adelphi, the oracles, right? This is all historical record. Everywhere they seen the wise women, they called them witches and set them aflame on the stake. This was done through the church, right? There's a different type of oppression in Islam of the woman. And theirs come out of where Abraham is going to Egypt and he tells Sarah to cover your face lest they see your beauty and they slay me for you. It didn't have nothing to do with the women being out of control and everything to do with the men being out of control. So since the men was out of control, instead of correcting the men, it's easier to cover the woman. Conceal that which you do not want to be seen by others. Right? And so the war against the feminine is at the point, ground zero of Islam, Mecca. The black cube is the uterus. The black stone is the vagina. Right? The original goddess was elect. They turned her into the daughter of Allah in order to put the patriarchy in a superior position. So you can see the fingerprints of the war against the divine feminine in every religion. Right? They don't want to deal with structure and order for men. They rather deal with concealment and cover of women.
Wow.
But in a real civilized country, the woman didn't have to walk around with no clothes on. Because wasn't nothing going to happen to her.
Right.
Right? But when you go around uncivilized men, you have to conceal your woman.
That's right.
All of those religions, all of those religions is a war on women. And the main reason you know that Christianity is the war on women is because Jesus is Isis in Greek.
Go ahead.
The New Testament was written in Greek. So they concealing the mother. This is why they say the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost. The Holy Ghost is Isis.
Yeah.
Because the spirit, as spiritus, the breath, rides in by the magnetic pull of the mitochondria.
Yeah.
The powerhouse. Electromagnetism. Right? And you can only get mitochondria from the woman. Hail Mary, Mother of God. What the hell that make her?
Right.
Creator God giving birth to ruler God.
Go ahead.
Right? They tell you it's two people in the story, but you ain't pay attention because Emmanuel's name is only mentioned one. The Son. They only mention his name one time on his birth. The Immaculate Conception.
Mm-hmm.
Right? But they don't talk about him no more because his mama is doing her work. Isis. Who y'all call Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So when they call her Jesus, this is how they know all of the people with them stringy beards and hippie haircuts ain't Jesus, because they know in the secret societies that Jesus is a woman.
Right.
So whoever come in talking about they Jesus and they looking like a man, they know he of automatic fraud. And that's going to get you killed quicker than what you, or arrested quicker than you can imagine. Labeled a cult leader and tore down. Don't nobody want to just go to the Greek and see where Jesus is Isis. And so they overlook it because of doctrine. Mm-hmm. The structure and the order by which the doctrine must be given in a manner that could subdue the minds of the people. Your genetic memory, remember the story. Mm-hmm. So you're drawn to it. But your intellectual prowess is arrested development through the 12-step thinking detox called school. So now they're able to fascinate your mind with a fairy tale mixed with truth. Mm. And now you can't figure out exactly what you hear. You know the story, so you believe the narrative. Right. Because it's part of who you are, the holy drama. But since we don't remember the holy drama, the Usurian resurrection story, we go with the resurrection story they gave us in the false Messiah they painted for us, Caesar Borgia. Right.
Hey, Rod, that brings me to my next question. And we're going to take questions from the crowd for you you lady chiefs that was asking the questions on my others live. And I told you I'm going to get Rod on. We're going to take some of y'all questions in a minute. Hey, Rod, could you go in on the power that Big Mother had to raise 3 and 4 generations of kids? Like my Big Mama, I know she raised at least 4, like even a generation after my generation, she raised some of them kids. Could you go in on what gave Big Mama that power to where she can? I mean, I know what gave her the power. I don't know if I'm wording it right, but what type of energy did Big Mama have to be able to take care of 4 generations of kids? Her kids, they kids, and they kids, etc. Go ahead.
It's only 2 things: love and experience. She loved her family, and she got the experience of raising children from the mistakes she made raising her own. And when she raised grandchildren, she refined it even more. By the time she get to great grands, it's a piece of cake.
Yeah.
Now she can sit there and tell the young mother everything to do to make her life easier as a mother because she had the most experience. That experience is her training program for being Big Mama. Uh-huh. She had to go through the ringer when she was younger in order to develop the asset skills in development when she was mature.
Mm-hmm.
And all of the time, like my mama been building our family unity since she was a little girl.
Mm-hmm.
She was destined to be the big mama one day. Right? And she was the one that all her sisters used to call. No matter what the problem was, Shirley knew how to fix it.
Mm-hmm. Call Shirley.
And my mama might not have knew how to fix it, but she said, let me think on it for a minute and I'm going to figure something out. Mm-hmm. And she always figured something out.
Fire. That's fire, right? That's a brilliant answer, right? Like you can't. That was just divine truth right there. How big you said experience and love. That is just straight up raw and uncut truth right there. That Big Mama was able to do that. And Big Mama also fed communities. Because my Big Mama used to cook. Every time she cooked enough for a football team. Every time.
It's funny you say that. Because if the rumor got out that my mama was cooking some greens this weekend, yeah, I guarantee you it's going to be people from Chicago, Grand Rapids, Detroit, all over Michigan. We're going to have both sides of the street. One side of our street, no parking, right? But both sides of the street going to have cars parked all up and down the block.
Yeah, come and get a plate.
They come to get a plate. Man, my mama couldn't cook in no regular old pot. She had to use military pots. She used to have to cook like she cooking for the military. And that it didn't last. Mm-hmm. We didn't hardly ever get to throw no food away because it was, till we got older and everybody started wanting fast food, but couldn't nobody out cook my mama.
That's deep. Hey man, so I noticed this too. Back in the day, like when we was dealing with Jim Crow and everything, and it's a question really. When we was dealing with Jim Crow and segregation and they was treating us. But I noticed Big Mama still got respect from like the chief of Ku Klux Klan, police, and then some of them cats, man, they would come by Big Mama house to get a plate. Some of them white guys, and then Big Mama said, "I raised him." Like the white boy, I said, I raised that white boy. You know what I'm saying? That's why he liked it, But what type of energy is that Big Mama had that type of respect, even from the most racist guys in town? You know what I'm saying?
Most of them was only racist for public opinion. Especially when they had one of our Big Mamas was their nanny. They would go at your head faster than us about our own Big Mama. Right? So the society was racist. They had racist laws on the book that they had to follow, which gave a social conditioning to a racist psychology. Racism is an artificial construct. And they made skin color the foundation of racism when everybody the same skin color ain't the same race. Right? So racism in and of itself is flawed. The whole philosophy of racism is flawed. But when you say skin-based racism, we are shades of wheat. And if you ain't light enough wheat, you can't participate in the society. That was all done by your so-called political Masons and Shriners in order to facilitate the George Washington Challenge. That's why the legal term for white people didn't exist in law until 1681. It wasn't part of our reality before that. Skin-based racism was not a thing before that. Right? And it didn't become enforceable until after the Civil War. Right? And how they enforced it, this is when they started to import pale faces from Europe. So now they can cover up the dirty hand by putting the pale face up as being the ones that did everything before 1681, and they wasn't even here yet.
Hey, Rob, my next question, that's fire. My next question I got for you is about, okay, so like back in the day, you we still dealing with the feminine energy, and we're talking about lady chiefs. But I want to stimulate towards the white women back in the day that started all these things like Rosewood, Tulsa, Oklahoma. I was dealing around a white woman. Now, what's interesting, I did this tape the other day about this guy, Robert F. Williams, who was the guy that said we're going to match lynching with lynching, right? I think you told me about the guy. That's why I did a tape on him, right? Now, a white girl kissed two black boys, and the black boys wasn't like asking for no kiss or nothing. They just walking down the street. She just walk up and kiss them. And she go tell her mother, and her mother calls the cops, and these guys get arrested and slammed into prison. What type of ideology were they on to with this white white girl get touched, white girl get kissed? It happened to Emmett Till, and then she come clean on her deathbed and say Emmett Till wasn't doing nothing. But what type of game is that for them to run with the white girl?
It serves several purposes, right? So go back if you want to understand it a little better. Read J. Rogers, Nature Knows No Color Line, Sex and Race, and Superman the Man. Right? You got to understand what's the psychological game being played. It's a reverse psychology. Also, that goes along with that is your Walter Plecker and your all of these racial purists or eugenics movement. Now, it's a psychology that comes from that when they couldn't get the guys in the tribes to associate with the women that needed the drop of blood. So they reverse psychology, they make them become the standard of protection, which makes them the beauty standard. But all of their beauty standard is to imitate the system. Right? So by telling the guys what he can't have, it make it become more desirable to the guy. Can't have that. Right? So it was a reverse psychology at play in order for them to get their one drop of blood. Remember, they was allowed to get their one drop of blood by any means necessary. This is why your so-called plantation rapes, them wasn't the plantation owners that was doing all that raping, them was the management team of pale-faced Europeans. And part of his payment was he had to have fornication rights under the king. Fuck rights. And that was part of the distribution of the booty in war. Right? So the dirty Moor who sweetheart swindled Big Mom and poisoned her hired these pale faces to make him look like he a servant too, but he all the time running them. He the one paying their check. And then later on, his plan is to liquidate the property asset through a sharecropping agreement that's gonna fail because they're gonna burn down the crops. So now he got two options: move the family off the land and give it to the bank, right? Or the mortgage company, the debt pledge company, which is a death pledge company, which takes you back to your most violent bloody oath, right? So when we see what they're doing, they rewrite the story and tell us it's a slave narrative. But for the 100 and some years that they allowed the pale faces to run rampant, raping the women in the family farm that they called the plantation, he lightened up certain bloodlines on the plantation. Because sometimes you got to remember, it's already recorded in the historical record that some of these guys was raping sister, have a baby by her, rape her, have a baby by her, rape her, have a baby by her for 5 and 6 generations. We talking the dilution of the blood quantum, which is actually the dilution of the skin pigment, right? So now when they leave the firm under the pretense of being free from slavery, which was actually the publicizing the public side of slavery, getting rid of the private sector. Because under the private sector, that means that the man and the woman of the house controlled the plantation or the farm, which was a sizable portion of land. Some of them got cities on them now, which used to just be the little housing development on the farm where all of the people used to stay. So you got to look at everything that was being done, and you understand why they doing what they did. In hindsight, always make it clearer to see it. Then, as long as you're not following a given narrative, you're not going to see the same story. But with following the given narrative, you came on a slave ship, they worked you on the plantation, then they set you free.
Bullshit. Like, even the people on that movie, if you go back and watch a movie called Patriot on Patriots with that I can't think of that white boy name, but when the British come, they asked them slaves, they said you can come fight for King George and be free. They said we ain't we aren't no slaves, we just work here. We just sharecropper. Yeah, that's what they told them. You go back and watch it again. When they were talking about death to King George, they said we ain't no slaves. They was letting us know then that the slave narrative was game. But this is my next question for you, Rod. Now, what do you say to the brothers who go, like the brothers who all their life they were a sister, they all through high school, a sister holding them down through college, and then they go to the NBA or to some professional league, or they get some Fortune 500 job, and then they drop the sister to the curb and get the white girl. What type? They said somebody said jungle fever. But what type of mentality is that, bro, for a brother to drop the sister after he get the money, and then the white woman inherited the wealth while the sister?
I don't think every one of those cases are the same. Because you got brothers who still with the sister they came with.
LeBron.
There's a perfect example. He's still with the one he came with. Now, whether he did some dibbling and dabbling on the side, that'd be true. It's the nature of the man. Right? Sexual conquest is the nature of the man. Because the sex is the acceptance of women. But when we talking about athletes, well, you got to look at one thing too. Once you get up in that socioeconomic bracket, years ago, wasn't there sisters up there? So when he left the sister, he was only around that socioeconomic group. So this is what he became familiar with dealing with. It's another form of psychological development into moving you along the path that they want you to take in the system. Remember, the early athletes wasn't doing that. In the Dr. J era, you wasn't seeing that. That happened later when the contracts got bigger and the exposure to the people around you changed. Right? Now, somebody that grew up in the chaos of the hood and get the taste of the piece of the suburb, they might not never go back to the hood again. Right? Because the energy is different. Mm-hmm. But I don't think that all of those cases are the same. And I don't think that the brother dropped the sister just because she's a sister. I think they had relationship problems while he was on the come up that they never dealt with. Mm-hmm. But now that he's financially stable, he can see all of the cracks in the relationship because he's not focused so much on the grind no more.
This makes sense.
You overlook a lot of stuff while you on the grind. And sometimes you don't see the backbiting behavior. Right? You don't see the little slight diss. Right? That's going to come back and haunt you later. You don't have time to pay attention to it because you focused on the grind. When your opportunity to see stuff different and you no longer focus on the grind, the relationship that was already rocky that didn't nobody admit now becomes apparently dysfunctional. Right.
Oh, you go. Okay, go ahead. You finished? Oh, go ahead. Bro.
No, one more thing. Ain't no man gonna leave a good woman for the speculation of the next woman. Ain't no man that's a man gonna leave a good woman
I know it's telling
for another woman. I don't care what color she is. If she a good woman, she gotta make that man leave. He ain't going nowhere. Mm-hmm. And it's not always the same in the reverse. Sometimes, most of the time, the good men get treated the worst because they good men.
Right. All right, Rod. This my now we getting a little late, so now we can get my questions for to get a little more exclusive for my ladies and my lady chiefs. Now the next question we have for you, Rod, is when I was younger, I used to hear my younger some of my auntie and them, and I used to hear my big mama tell them when they come home at late at night in the middle of the night, and she used to say, "A dry purse and a wet ass don't match." Could you go in on what Big Mama? Yeah, dry person the way that don't matter. Could you go in on what Big Mama was trying to get over to the young girls when she was giving them that riddle?
She was telling them basically that if you're gonna give away the cookies, you ain't gonna never get a cookie jar. Cookie jar is the house and the husband. So you just sitting up here with a wet ass, you been giving up the ass, right? You ain't gonna never get what you trying to get. If you're gonna give it away, you might as well get something for it. If you're gonna be a hoe, be a good one. Like Willie D said, let a hoe be a hoe, right? Big Mama tell her the same thing. If you're gonna be a hoe, be a hoe. Don't be half-assing it.
Coming home broke, no money. Now, hey, we got an hour in. I got this is my last question. Then we'll take questions from the crowd. Hey, Rod, do you think that women are better teachers than men? Because I noticed there's more women school teachers than it is man school teachers. My sister's a school teacher. Do you think that women are better teachers than men, especially to the for the kids?
Certain age brackets, women can reach children easier than men, right? But it's not we used to women being our first teacher because mama is our first teacher. So women know how to communicate to a child from a mother's perspective that get through to children easier. And if she become a trained teacher, she put mother skills with that, and she's able to reach children easier. But I don't know if that make her a better or worse teacher. Some men, like most of the men, they teach adults better. Right? This is why when you get to the university, after you went through school, you get to high school, you got more male teachers than you do in elementary. Excuse me. You got more male teachers than elementary. But the closer you get to university, you start getting more and more male professors. Because male adults teach adults different, more analytical. And women can teach a left brain child how to process right brain data, in which will give him the balance. So if he have a good teacher, a good woman teacher in early years, he gonna be easier for the male teacher to teach in later years.
Hey, Rod, for all my women chiefs that was in the comments asking the questions the other day, they wanted to ask the questions to Brother Rod. Drop them in the chat right now. We're gonna put them on the screen. Hey, Rod, what should while we wait on to drop the questions, what should women chiefs on the land be doing now? And do they gotta have paperwork from the government or somebody? How does that work?
The government and the paperwork have nothing to do with being a chief. Right. Mainly what they doing is building bonds and bridges in the family and fixing broken parts. Family members is just can't get along. They figure out, okay, y'all might not be able to get along, don't got nothing to do with the kids, right? They figure out a way to keep the cohesion in the family. And this is why there's a lot of time Big Mama helped the female chief do this. Because she's training them also to become big mamas later on in her absence. But the ability to reach out to different family members, remember I told the male chiefs the same thing. The more family members that you reach out to, the higher your rank in your family. And once you start getting that relationship built with the family, then you will start getting distant relatives reaching out to you, right? And then you will learn how much reach your family really do have, and if y'all was organized, how potent you can be as a family unit.
That is deep, Rob, because you might got somebody in your family that do like that's on tire shop or that mechanic. Like we got a family mechanic. Everybody in my family, we take our call Little Man. Little Man is the family mechanic, and then he got people that he training under him that's gonna take his spot. And it just depends on what you want done. We got somebody in the family we could go to. But the female, you saying that the female role is to get that back organized again, to where everybody know who what. Go ahead.
Part of the organizational structure is to know who can do what. So let's say we get in a situation where we need a cyber geek. Oh, that's my cousin Cheryl's son. All he do is sit there and break computers apart and write programs all day for fun. The government don't know nothing about him. He the greatest hacker that don't hack, right? Because he got a good spirit, good nature. He's a good person. He don't want to break the law, but that don't mean he don't know how to do it, right? So when you need a cyber expert, he already trained. You got to know the skill set of in the family, and then you'll know who the function go to. Like, I'm not the banker. My sister Robert and my cousin Ray is the bankers, right? Because when they got to sign off on the family giving you money to open the business, Ray gonna tell you no if it's some bullshit, and Robin gonna tell you no if the numbers don't match. That accountant don't add up. You got to go back and figure it out, redo it, or we're going to have to get you some help because this ain't working. We can't give you money to just throw it down the drain, right? So you got a family banker, they know how to look at the proposals of the business idea, and they want you to be successful, because if you're successful, that means that's one most successful family member, right? Outsiders don't want you to be successful because that's more competition for their family member.
Somebody said, why did they change the mother to father? Dominant line. The mother carries the mitochondrial DNA.
You're correct. The reason they switched it from the mother line to the father line is to usurp the mother's right to not sell the land. It was part of the trick. Go to Instagram, type in the goddess glowed up, Hydia Barbell. She is the priestess that does that. The goddess glow up. I don't know when her next event gonna be, but that's what she's been doing for years. And there's other groups that also assist in that. People do ceremonies according to what they feel in their energy, rituals and stuff like that. And if you feel like that's what you need to do, organize it, put it together, and do it. It's not what I think. It's what the Spirit is instructing you to do. Be obedient to your spirit. Follow your intuition. In Kemet, that was a countdown. In English, they give us the countdown 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. But in Kemet, the countdown was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Right. In science, 1, 2, 3, 4 mean put it in its standard order. The order that you know that it's supposed to be in. So it's a lot of meanings to 1, 2, 3, 4. Sum total being 10, alpha meets omega. You got to get all of the deeds that came from the first transaction on the land. None of these transactions on the land is over 200 years old. It's just that they burned down so many courthouses, libraries, and state buildings in the early 1900s, late 1800s to deliberately destroy the records. But even then, we still had sizable portions of land. For me to give you a clear-cut way to get your land back, I have to look over your paperwork. But just remember, when the land is changing hand and you seeing these signatures on there, make sure they're a family member signature or the deed is defective.
Hey, Rod. So, what do you think? Because I saw that they did a mass shooting. I think it was a day or two ago at the Catholic Church. So, you think they still trying to pull that Manchurian candidate? Stuff?
I'm glad you brought that up. Did you see the new school commercial?
Nah, I ain't seen this new school commercial.
Look, I'm gonna have to send it to you. We'll see if we can play it. But they telling the parents don't send your children to these schools this year because we finna see more school shootings than ever. They just had one in Wisconsin, but they're using Manchurian candidates to shoot up these schools.
Yeah, hey, bro, I saw an ad that they was doing where they said that they just added new metal detectors at all these schools down here, and I was saying why they just all of a sudden do that. And they already had them in a lot of schools that like the schools that was already dangerous, but they starting to add extra locks and stuff like they get gearing up for something. And then all of a sudden the school shooting, I mean with the at the Catholic school.
I just sent you a back
All
to
right,
school.
let me try to get it.
Yeah. So they telling us what's about to happen.